Good afternoon. Welcome to a special edition of Faith, Family, and Political Affairs. We have not been before you since the King celebration, which was incredibly successful. Of course, we did 3 installments of it that lasted into the evening, well into the evening, and we had several people to stop by and participate in it. So we count it as a huge success. But because we have not been to you before you since then, of course, that was mid-January. Um, and we are now well into this new presidential administration. And I just wanted to weigh in on some things and to announce our next Faith, Family, and Political Affairs full meeting with guest speakers and everything the way we normally do. Hopefully on February 27th, we're looking at 2 dates. It'll either be February 27th or March 6th. So do be on the lookout for that and mark your calendars. I will be announcing the specific date this week on my Facebook page and on my Instagram page. So do be on the lookout for that. We've already entitled it, Where Do We Go From Here? And I think that what led me to that title is there's so much uncertainty right now because the new administration, which I like to call the Trump Musk administration, because it doesn't seem like J.D. Vance, who was elected vice president, is anywhere in the picture. It seems like Elon Musk has that role. And just does not have that title, and none of us voted, for him. So, but he does seem to be acting out that role alongside Donald Trump. So I call it the Trump Musk administration. And so in this first 100 days of their reign, I'm going to call it a reign because REIGN, I'm going to call it that because it feels very everybody's throwing around the word authoritarian, but I believe it feels that way to me. It does not feel democratic the way they are dealing with the public's money, with our information, and just with the way they keep us informed about what they're doing, the transparency of their administration. It does not feel like the democracy that I've been used to in my years of being, an American. And so, and that is, quite a few years. So I for one, do not feel that this is the country that it has been for the last, I'm going to say 15, 20, even 30 years. Things are changing and they are changing fast. And so we have to be paying very close attention to all that's going on. Number one, I just have to mention, I have to stop and say Happy Black History Month, because that's what February, has been, designated as the month to celebrate the contributions of African Americans to our great nation. And I must say that, it is my contention that we, especially us who are from that heritage, who are descendants of slaves in this country, we should celebrate it, 12 months of the year in some way. But this month is the month that's allotted to the celebration of our contributions by the country. So I just wanted to, make you aware that there are so many things that you can be doing, with your family, individually, to commemorate this month. I'd like to say that while we remember the pain of the past, because we cannot forget the indentured servitude. We cannot forget slavery. We have to remember that past. We don't remember it to belabor the pain or to belabor the cruelty that was, delivered upon our people. We don't remember it for that reason. We remember it so that it never happens again. That to me is number one, but also that our children can understand the resilient nature of this people that is African, brought over here to America and challenged with overcoming slavery and then surviving Jim Crow, which was, an institutionalized set of laws that kept us from reading, from the very basic things, kept us from education, kept us, we had to come in the back entrances of businesses. We could not sleep in a hotel room on the highway. Those buses, trains, all public transportation was segregated. If we rode on that stuff, we had to ride in the back. And so we endured all of that and we survived all of that. And even in the midst of all of that, we still danced, sang, we still wrote poems, we still wrote books, we still made clothes, we still, invented stuff for our hair, we invented, all kinds of gadgets that help move the country forward, like the stoplight. You can Google all of this stuff to find out the contributions of Africans who were brought here, enslaved, and then fought for freedom, won the freedom, and then had to fight segregation and won that. And so we still, as Maya Angelou said in the poem, still we rise, So take a moment, whether you're in the culture or not, take a moment to recognize and remember the contributions of African Americans during the month of February and beyond. So just wanted to make that clear. Also, the new administration seems to be targeting our culture. This is just my feeling. But I pay close attention to the news, as you know. But this reversal of the Department of Education, going after the Department of Education, when we know that one of the great milestones of the civil rights movement was the Brown versus Board of Education, that said all education is supposed to be fair and equal. And it led to the integration of schools, and schools on a local level, and then schools, universities. Because before Brown v. Board, everything education related was segregated. The history books say segregated was separate and unequal. Okay, so the African American schools had books, but they got the books after the Caucasian schools had already used the books. So when you hear people who lived during that period describe it, they talk about, well, they were seeking equal access to education. They were not so much seeking integration of everything, but they were seeking balance and fairness. They felt that they should have the same new books, same monies spent toward their education as was being spent toward the education of other Americans, and so that was the struggle. And now we reflect because we seem so much to be under attack. This administration is already tearing down the Department of Education. And education was, the conduit, the path to progress for African Americans in this country. And after slavery, during slavery, there were rules that we weren't taught to read, and so we have to take this personally a little bit. When you say you're going to take away funding for people to go to school, and you say you're going to shut down the whole department that facilitates that, we have to think about that. And then we have to consider the continued assault on voting rights, which was another milestone of the civil rights movement. And there's continued, even in the last election, attempts to keep people from voting. All this stuff about different IDs that you need to have when you come in to vote. And all the gerrymandering, that's a big word, but it just means that a lot of the voting districts, particularly in the South, were redrawn to exclude or to eliminate districts that normally would elect Black representatives. So they were gerrymandered, redrawn to control the outcome of the vote. That's an old tactic. Google the word. It's GERRYMANDER, gerrymander. Just Google it, and you'll see the whole history of it's a tactic from the 50s, 50s and 60s to keep African Americans. That was the number one target then. It could be argued now that the target may be female voters, women voters, and it may be Hispanic voters, and extended on to other groups. But since this is Black History Month, we'll focus on the time period that we were targeted. And of course, we have this case that lingers right now where Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York and Trump, advocate, was sued because he pretty much made up a whole story about two African American voting workers who were just doing their job, but he claimed that they were helping to steal the election from Donald Trump, and that was in 2020. Of course, all of that kind of stuff was flying about, and it led to the insurrection. But Giuliani was sued on behalf of these two women, and he lost that lawsuit because basically these women were just like most other committed poll workers and people who work in local towns and stuff to help to facilitate the vote. Just committed workers, just citizens committed to helping that process play out. Those two women were in that category, and he pretty much fabricated some stuff on them, but paid through the courts. And I remember reading recently that he is still owed, he is still obligated to pay them, the monies that they were awarded by a court for his defamation of their character. But that voting rights piece it has always been a very serious piece because, in a country that is supposed to be democratic, to keep people from voting, you deny them access to a lot of the rights that are afforded to the citizens of the nation. So during this month in particular, we have to pay special attention to this effort to turn things back. When former Vice President Kamala Harris was running her campaign, one of her slogans was, "We are not going back." And not just African Americans were saluting that and shouting that. Women had to fight, who had to also fight for the vote in this country. And then, people from the LGBTQ community, had to fight for certain rights and continue to. and other groups as well. So we have to pay close attention to what's going on. We don't live in fear. We don't, because we are Americans. We know we're Americans. So we don't live in fear, but we must be vigilant and pay attention that these battles that were hard fought are not reversed, right? Right in our face. As the young people say, they're playing in our face, and they're taking away things from us that belong to us, and we should not allow that to happen. So we just urge everybody to, I still like that phrase, stay woke. I don't see any problem with it, because to me, to be awake is to be aware. So I say be aware of when these great rulings come down from the administration, because they're firing people, and a lot of government workers in DC have just been let go, and they have not had to give the traditional 2-week notification or 30 days notification. I've read that was the standard in the government for government workers. They're supposed to give these workers at least a 30-day notice, but they have let people go. Let's call it what it is, fired people without any warning. And some of the people have been on TV saying that, they fired them and that was their last pay. They sent them their last paycheck and that was it. And the treatment of people is so inhumane. And I don't like to just lay it at the feet of people, just say because they're wealthy. The Kennedys were a wealthy family. Okay, we all knew that they were a wealthy family, but they also were a family that were concerned about other people who had less than they did. That service to people was important to that family through the generations. That's just one family, the Clinton family. I mean, just pick some families, the names that I remember Bob and Elizabeth Dole. They are Republicans, but they were about, in North Carolina, where I'm from, their name is revered for just helping people, period. Okay. John McCain, he's a Republican, but it was not always about these labels. Okay. You only care about people if they're in your party. Okay. It was Americans who have a lot care about Americans who don't have a lot. Okay. There was something instilled in us as Americans that you care. If you've been blessed, then you look to bless those who are less fortunate. That used to be the term that was used, the less fortunate. Then you feel some obligation or desire, even, not even obligation, a desire to help those people move forward. So this environment that we're in now, where it's like the wealthy people, they're called oligarchs. Like the wealthy people just want to be wealthy. Sorry. I'm sorry. Just want to have money just to like buy boats and stuff for their own children. Is like the hell with everybody else. This is not America. Okay, like I'm African American, so I don't romanticize our country. Okay. I have lived a life of a Black woman in America. It has not been a crystal staircase, as the poem says, by I think that's the County Cullen. but life has not been a crystal staircase for me as a Black woman in America. However, um, you know, I have had my victories, and I have, been able to earn the degrees that I have sought in the universities that I have attended. Thank you to the U.S. Department of Education, because I am not from a family of wealth. Okay. And without the aid of work study, when I earned my bachelor's degree, I did work study. I worked in the library to help pay for my college education. Okay. And so it was called work study back then. And but it allowed kids who did not have the money to go to school and to feel like they were earning their way through school, despite what some people like to pretend that it was just given to you. It was not. I'll never forget, a lot of times I had to go work in the library before my classes, and sometimes I had to go work in the library after my classes. It was worked around my studies. Okay. And I'm sure I'm just one of millions who did it that way. And that's the beauty of our country, though. Okay. And just think about how you're able to go to a park and you're able to sit by a lake and you're able to, go to a zoo, and you're able to, these we have access to things that we may not own. Okay, we have access to the waterways. Maybe the Trumps have yachts and stuff that they can go and be on the water. They can afford that, and the Musks of the world. But thank God that there was FDR who said, let's save some of this access to the public for the public, for the people who don't have the money, so they can go and sit by the water and sit under the trees and, enjoy all the beauty of the country. We've always had leadership, even if they had their issues with race, and many of our forefathers were racist. They owned slaves. It's documented. Francis is not making it up. I always tell you, if you listen to my broadcast, to Google anything that I say that you question. Um, because I celebrate the beauty of our country, but I also am trying to be very, very honest about the moments of weakness and failure in our country. Dr. King talked about that, he put it so brilliantly. We just want you to do what you put down on paper. That's all. We don't want to hand out. We just, if you put it in the Constitution, you say all men are created equal. Hey, let's go by that. That's what I think that's what all Americans want. I don't think any Americans of any persuasion, when you come to this country, you expect to, I think the immigrants do. When you come to this country, you expect to work for what you get. There are always stereotypes. I've dealt with them all my life. People don't expect you to be in some spaces that you're in. How did she get here? She must be it wasn't when I was coming through the work world, it wasn't DEI, it was just affirmative action. She must be an affirmative action hire. You flick that stuff off your shoulder, you just, hey, you dust it off your shoulder, you keep it moving, you just do the best job that you know how to do. Okay, whatever profession you go into. If you're in school, you study hard. Okay, you stay up late nights to get it done. You try to get A's and B's instead of C's and D's. Okay, you hear what I'm saying? You earn your way. It's a myth and it's a lie that people of color just expect to be handed, stuff. Not the ones that I've known anyway. So let's just move forward. And the next thing I wanted to just mention just briefly is this whole dismantling of U.S. aid. That organization doesn't, you don't hear about it in your everyday life. I didn't know about it. I didn't know the name of the organization, but I did know that our country gives money, gives food, gives aid to underdeveloped countries around the world. I remember commercials when I was a little girl showing that we were feeding people in underdeveloped countries. We were making sure they had clean water because we can walk into our kitchen, into our bathrooms, and turn on our water, and we expect it to come out of the faucet. Well, as some people in these underdeveloped countries have to get up in the morning and walk 2 or 3 hours to a lake or something and get their water. So because we are so blessed in this country, and this is back to the way that wealthy people used to think in our country, and I think many of them still do. It's just this bunch, that is now that we're now dealing with. It's so awkward to us because we haven't seen this in this country. We've dealt with wealthy people. We've never been a country that was the rich against the poor. The wealthy people, you looked, there was something to aspire to. Okay, it was not hate and love. It wasn't like that throughout my life. But I think this group of people, they want to turn it into the rich against the poor. I mean, it's like when Donald Trump said that time about the military people. He thinks the ones that got captured were just dumb or something. Those were the weak ones, the ones who got captured. He said that while people like John McCain, who had been a prisoner of war, were still alive. Bob Dole and them, people who went and served for this country and came back hurt and harmed, emaciated. Google the names and Google the pictures. Who came back hurt and harmed and then still went out and served in the Congress and stuff, this country. Donald Trump, who has never served anybody but the Trump family, God forgive me if I'm wrong on that, has never served anybody, great or good. Okay, had the nerve to say those people are the weak people, the ones who got caught, the ones who were captured. So I believe that that's how he sees people who are poor. Like there's something about you that made you poor. Like, why can't you just be like me and be rich? I'm sorry, but to me, it's ridiculous. I pray about my disdain for this kind of thinking. I have never felt this way about people. Like, what makes an Elon Musk think that he can come to the greatest country on the earth? Because that's what we are. We have built this country, all of us together have built this great nation. So what makes Elon Musk, who comes out of South Africa, apartheid, who just like 10 years ago stopped brutalizing the majority of the Black people in that country? Google it. Go Google apartheid. Apartheid. I've read stuff about Elon Musk. He earned his money. He came up in the era of apartheid. Him and his friend Peter Thiel, and there's another gentleman whose name I can't remember now right now, but Google them. He was presented to America as a tech wizard, okay, the tech guy. He's just very smart. And of course, those of us who are still learning the technology, we're fascinated with that. Oh, wow, he must be a really cool guy. And I'm not saying that he's not cool, but he did that Nazi salute. In America, because we went into a whole war to stop the Nazis in Germany. Okay, we went into a whole war to stop the Nazis in Germany from exterminating Jews. We went to a whole war for that, okay? And so even though we have these neo-Nazi groups, they just like to every now and then flex, they know that they are not the majority of people in this country. So where does this guy come from, Elon Musk, who's doing Nazi salutes? While he's now going into the Treasury Department, the U.S. Department of Education, just in your face, just saying, I can do it better than you. I can run your democracy better than you can. That's what he's saying. And Trump is like, yeah, I think he can. Forgive me, I'm just an American who believed in the Constitution. I went to school, I believed what you taught me. So if it was a lie, excuse me for being offended that people can come over who are not elected. Elon Musk is not, his name was on no ballots. At least J.D. Vance's name was on the ballot next to Trump's name or underneath Trump's name as his running mate. He is legitimately elected from what we know, although some people are questioning the outcome of the election. Not loudly yet, but some people are questioning it. But at least J.D. Vance was elected. Elon Musk has not been elected to anything. And yet, the arrogance to tell Americans of any persuasion, Caucasian, African American, Hispanic American, Asian Pacific, LGBTQ American, to tell Americans how to run a democracy. Okay, there's there's a lie now going around about, oh, we're finding all these fake people getting Social Security checks. 150-year-old people, dead people, are getting Social Security checks. They said that same lie about the voting system. A voting system that is respected around the world before Donald Trump came onto this picture. Okay, before he came onto the stage, the United States used to go around the world and monitor other people's voting systems. That's how good ours was and is, and it still is. It's just questioned by these people who have come out of nowhere. And we as Americans have allowed it. I'm just waiting for us to just wake up and say, excuse us. Excuse us? No. I'm waiting for that. So, because just like there are not a million dead people voting, there are not a million dead people receiving Social Security checks. They're playing in our faces, as the young people say, with the Social Security, all this fraud and stuff they're supposed to be discovering. They're playing in our faces with it, just like they played in our faces with it about the voting. When Trump won this time, have you heard any criticisms of the voting system? To them, the voting system only works right if they get elected. When they win, you haven't heard any criticism of the voting system this time. You mean to tell me that just 4 years ago, the system was so bad that you had to have an insurrection? And in 4 years, it's got cleaned up so good that you didn't have to have one riot to complain about the election. Stay woke. That's all I'm saying. Stay woke. Stay woke. Okay. So happy Black History Month one more time. Again, I have to just say this about the Super Bowl. Now, I don't watch the Super Bowl. I haven't watched the Super Bowl since my son was still living with me, and that's been many, many years. I watched the Super Bowl back then, because he was into football and all. I don't watch the Super Bowl, but this year and many years, the Super Bowl halftime. Now, I will tune in and watch the halftime show because they always have great halftime shows. And I will see like who sang the national anthem. I will tune in for stuff like that. And if I'm invited to a party, I will certainly go and enjoy the snacks and stuff and the camaraderie. But as I age, this is not like a big deal in my life, the Super Bowl Sunday. But this time, the halftime, well, the singer, the lady who sung the national anthem, well, the Negro national anthem, Let Us See. I absolutely adore her. I have listened to her for years. I adore her. So when I heard that she was going to sing, I tuned in to hear her. And then I must say I did not tune into the halftime show, but I heard so much about it. I was hearing so much about it. I said, well, I got to see what they're talking about. And sure enough, it was fabulous. I mean, I didn't get all the messages that came along with Kendrick Lamar's performance. But I absolutely loved seeing Sam Jackson because I love him in anything. Who doesn't love him, right? Ever since Pulp Fiction. You gotta love Sam Jackson. But so and Serena Williams, I mean, that's my Serena and Venus. Anything you put them in, if I could get to it, I'm getting to it. Okay. Because I watched them as little girls get onto that tennis court and just show up and show out. Okay. Um, and at the time that they came on, a lot of people don't even think about them in their tennis um phenomenal behavior and accolades. People, they've gone on to do clothing lines, she and Venus, and of course she has two children and a husband now, and both of them, they're well known on the world stage. But I first came across them as a tennis lover, you know, somebody who had watched Chris Evert play and loved her, and Billie Jean King was going out when I started watching tennis. And then several of the others, and John McEnroe, and that era was when I came in, and as these people began to age, Venus and Serena came into the picture, and of course to have two African Americans that went in a sport that hardly had any, then there were two out there killing. They were taking names out there. So. I love anything that they do. I try to follow and support anything that those girls do because they're women now, phenomenal women, phenomenal women. And I think that she just, those few seconds, and there's a video of her saying it was the best 10 seconds of her life when she crip walked to They Not Like Us. You gotta love that. I mean, this woman who has always held up the bloodstained banner and behaved as everybody wants them to behave. That's what she and Venus always do. Um, she had a moment to let her hair down, beautiful hair, and dance in front of the whole country and maybe the whole world because everybody watches the Super Bowl, especially the halftime. And so Kendrick Lamar invited her in to help him, take that shot at Drake. And I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that she dated him for a while. I think it was like, hey, I didn't get to do, when I did this at Wimbledon, it was a problem for these people. And now I get to just come out here and dance. And look at how great she looked after having two kids. Who wouldn't get out there in that little skirt? I loved it. As a former cheerleader, I loved it. Okay, so Super Bowl match, I had to just mention that. So I'm going to wrap it up now. And I'm going to wrap it up with just a little serious thing I wanted to mention. Um, if you are on Facebook and you have a minute to stop by my page, I am promoting this saying that I've heard through the years, because I think this is the time that we need new leadership. We need leadership that is forward thinking, but even deeper than that, that is humane. A democracy, this democracy cannot survive if it does not care about people. That's why this country is blessed. This country is blessed to be a blessing. That's my humble opinion. We have it on our coins, on our money, in God we trust. I believe that God honors that because we say we trust God. We call ourselves a Christian nation. And I cite that verse in 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then will I hear from heaven and heal their land. If I misquoted it, go open the Bible, which I hope is not the Trump Bible, but go open your Bible and check it out, 2 Chronicles. The key phrase in that to me is, if my people who are called by my name. So we call ourselves a Christian nation. And because of that, we are obligated to behave in a certain way. We are held accountable if we treat people who don't have badly. Okay? Because there might not be any country that can check us, but there's a God that can check us. And don't think I'm saying it. I mean, check the Bible, check the scriptures, because a bunch of people are saying they're Christian. A bunch of people are saying that, but does your behavior reflect that as you treat other people who have less than you have? I don't know what Elon Musk believes. I don't know what his country, I don't know if he's a Christian. I don't know. But our country claims Christianity. There's this stuff out here now called Christian nationalism. I never heard of that in any church that I've ever been to. I've never heard of Christian nationalism. That's a political phrase. Find it in the Bible and bring it to me, show it to me. I'll listen to it. I have never seen it or heard it until this new group of people have emerged. I don't recognize that brand of Christianity. And I'm not a perfect Christian. I'd be the first to say, I'm the Christian who needs Jesus. All of my friends know I say that, and I believe that. Okay, I'm the Christian who needs to be forgiven. Okay, so but you have to be careful how you claim Christianity and how you treat other people who don't have, when the Lord has blessed this country the way it has. And that's all I'll say on that, because I don't want to start preaching. But that is, we have to be cognizant of that, because God is watching. And some people might say, well, why is God watching? Why is God letting all this happen? Well, he doesn't have to explain to us, to his believers, why he is doing the thing that he is doing it, but why he is doing things the way he's doing it. But what you don't want is to have to explain all of this stuff to God. Why did you do it this way? Why did you stop the funding to U.S. aid when you knew the people in the other countries needed that paste to keep their children alive? Okay, why did you stop that money when you knew they needed those needles to stop the spread of AIDS in that country? when you stand before God and he asks that question of this country, what will we say? What will we say? I put the money in your hands to make sure the people had the food, to make sure they had the clean water, to make sure they had the things they need to fight sexually transmitted disease. Because that's a part of it right now that's being laughed about. The condoms that were bought and given to the underdeveloped nations. They were trying to prevent the spread of disease. If you didn't learn anything else from COVID-19, you should have learned that a disease doesn't stay across the pond. People get on a boat, people get on a plane, they come here, the disease spreads. Didn't you learn anything from COVID? You help to keep the world safe by keeping underdeveloped countries safe. If you can contain a disease there, you don't have to worry about it coming here. See, God made this world so we're all interconnected so that you couldn't have a giant who could mistreat the little people, so to speak. Because in God's eyes, there are no little people. That's on the Trump Musk administration. I don't think they believe that. They don't want to mess around and let God have to show them. Okay, so I'm going to stop there with that. But emerging voices. There's this saying that I have on my page right now. It is said that when the people are ready, the leaders will emerge. I read that somewhere years ago. I'm sorry that I can't quote who where I saw it or where I got it from. But it is said that when the people are ready, the leaders will emerge. Okay. So be ready because the leaders will show up. Don Lemon just did who I believe is one of those leaders who has emerged. I believe that he, CNN, when they let him go, they just loosed him to be free to serve, not just African Americans, because I believe he's sent to the world. He's going to do some great work. He's already doing some great work, but that's just my humble opinion. But he's doing. He just did this special called Emerging Voices or something. But Google it. Google him and Emerging Narratives. With 3 or 4 different African Americans who are up and coming. W. Kamau Bell is one that I already knew of, who's a fascinating, he goes under the title of a comedian, but he's so much more. He does social commentary. He's just fascinating. And then there was a young man named Khalil Green who's doing some fascinating work. I can't remember the other 2 people, but Google Emerging Narratives and Don Lemon, and you should be able to find it. So, okay, excuse me. Once again, thank you for tuning in. This was meant to be a brief discussion, but I've rattled on because I've had it's been a while and so much has happened. But please again, mark your calendars for February 27th and for March 6th. And I will let you know on my page or on another broadcast which date we have selected, because we may do both days. That's how much we have to discuss. But we're entitling this once again, Where Do We Go From Here? And we're going to be talking about, of course, the political arena, because we are Faith, Family, and Political Affairs. We're going to be talking about the political arena, how, what's going on in the courts, because a lot of the Trump administration is being sued for a lot of the things that they have tried. When they tried to just cut, food monies for everybody, and they were blocked by the courts. And thank God for injunctions and for lawyers, right? Thank God for attorneys who have the backs of the people, who don't always have this money to fight these things. Thank God for the court system to put just a pause, to give these people, these super wealthy people, a moment of pause. And so they don't get everything they want and can't take everything they want to take from regular people. And so be on the lookout for where do we go from here, faith, family, and political affairs in the coming weeks. Thank you once again for tuning in. God bless.